Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Midlife Astrology Forecast, where we talk about astrology through the lens of a woman in midlife. Now, most astrology forecasts are written for everyone, the general public, right? But the truth is, we experience astrology differently at age 25 than we do at 50 and beyond. I should know. I'm Self Carrie, and I've been using astrology for the past 15 years to help me guide myself through the major transitions of my life with a lot of success. Now I'm using astrology to guide me through the next big chapter, midlife. And I'm using this channel to help you navigate this time along with me. Now, before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel so you can get all the midlife insight astrology has to offer, delivered straight to your algorithm each week. Now, this week there are several supportive transits, but each one is asking us to grow and expand in a different way. If you've spent 25 years building one career and suddenly feel called towards something entirely different, that's exactly the kind of question this transit is going to bring up to you this week. You may also realize that the friendships you've outgrown no longer fit the woman you're becoming, while newer relationships begin to reflect your values much more closely. So this week's astrology is asking us to stop fighting where life is taking us. I know. Now, in my 20s and even 30s, this would have been a really easy thing to do. I would have just packed up my suitcase. I would have just gone to where the next job, the next opportunity, the next guy, the next school was. But as someone turning 50, I have built things in my life now that I can't just pick up and leave as quickly as I used to. So for women in midlife, we can just jump on every aspiring idea that we get. We can't just jump on every aspiring idea that we get. We have families and children to consider. We may have health issues. We may have financial obligations. And for some of us, we are literally the glue that keeps everything running. So this week's exciting and frankly evolutionary astrological transit affects women in midlife very differently. So let's take a look at what they mean for us together. The first one is Barbo's basket. You surely have heard about this in astrology lately, but what does this mean for women in midlife? First, I'll tell you a bit about André Barbault, a French astrologer who died in 2019 at the age of 98. Now, he predicted, and this is the reason why so many people listen to him or follow his predictions. He predicted the collapse of the Soviet Union. He also predicted the global pandemic around 2020 and 2021. So what is Barbo's basket and why is it such a big deal right now? So this is an extraordinarily rare planetary configuration occurring over the next 3 days. That's July 19th through the 21st in 2026. Now, 3 of the 4 planets that Barbo cited will be working in harmony together, hence creating a kind of basket of goodies, hence the name Barbo's basket. So what are those 3 planets? This is what you want to pay attention to in your own chart. Jupiter represents opportunity, optimism, and the desire to expand something and make it bigger. I love Jupiter, it's my favorite. Neptune represents your dreams, your intuition, and your imagination. That whole what you can see can be kind of manifestation energy. That's Neptune, or at least the dreaming part. Okay. Now, Pluto represents transformation. It represents personal power, and it also represents personal and profound identity change. Okay. So when these 3 planets work together as they are now in what's called Barbo's basket, they encourage us to grow by letting go of the old version of ourselves and trusting a larger direction that's beginning to unfold. Now, you can see why this would be a different experience for women in midlife than it would be for someone in their 20s, right? For women in midlife, this may feel less like starting over and more like becoming who you've been quietly growing into for years. You may feel pulled toward a new career, a new location, a new creative project, or just a different way of living that reflects who you're becoming, not the one you had to be while you were raising children, you were supporting a partner, or putting everyone else first. So you may notice opportunities this week with this particular Barbo's basket astrological transit, opportunities coming up that stretch you beyond your comfort zone. This is things like a new job opportunity, but it makes you have to relocate to a new place, or it has a set of skills that you don't feel totally comfortable doing just yet. Something else that could come up is plans you've been attached to may begin changing. Maybe you always did this at this time every year, but now there's a new opportunity to do something different. And even though it's exciting, it's kind of throwing you off a little bit because you've been doing something the same way for so long because you're in midlife, right? So rather than forcing life back to what felt familiar, which is already unfamiliar to you at this time, you want to stay open to where it's naturally leading you. I had to take a deep breath there because I have a lot of Taurus in my chart and I'm very stubborn about things staying the same sometimes. You know, my Caps and my Virgos will also understand this. So sometimes the answer to your prayers isn't improving your current path. It's redirecting you onto a completely different one that you didn't see coming. So if you're feeling both excited and terrified by this unexpected opportunity, that's completely understandable. Midlife often asks us to balance possibility with responsibility. It's kind of like balance Jupiter, possibility, with Saturn, responsibility. When we were younger, we might have just been all Jupiter, just give me the possibilities, right? But Saturn, when we get older, makes us say, no, I want this to be real. I don't want to just dream about it. I want it to be real. So midlife is asking us to balance possibility with responsibility. And Barbo's basket is suggesting that growth doesn't require abandoning the life you already have. It may just be asking you to thoughtfully expand it. So Mercury retrograde is another transit that's coming in this week, or rather leaving us this week. Mercury retrograde has been in effect for the last several weeks. Mercury governs communication, thinking, transportation, technology, scheduling, calendars, information, right? And during a Mercury retrograde, these areas often slow down or make us have to sit back and review, rethink, revise, reconnect before we can move forward. So for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s and beyond, Mercury retrograde often brings old career conversations back around, or it reconnects us with former colleagues, or it asks us to rethink how we're balancing work, family, and our own well-being. Again, for people in their midlife, this can be a bit of a challenge, right? I've already been experiencing this with an old career that I used to do, coming back in a full force, opportunities to do it, and also reignited passion to do it, this time at a different level, at a higher level, at a more expanded level, right? Or even reconnecting with a former colleague. That's been happening again recently. Again, expanding what I thought I already knew, right? So this transit with Mercury retrograde going direct, it can also bring conversations with aging parents, with adult children, if you have those, or partners that these are conversations you've been waiting to have for a long time, but waiting to have them at the right time. So the way that you can apply this is Mercury stations direct this week, so clarity will start to begin returning back to you. Your plans will start moving again. You may finally understand why delays happened over the last several weeks. Don't expect everything to move instantly, okay? Think of it as slowly waking up from a vivid dream. Now, this is a wonderful week to send emails, write letters, follow up on things that you've been putting off, submit applications, reach out to clients, have meaningful conversations that you've been putting off having, maybe negotiate those agreements you had to put off, resolve any misunderstandings. People tend to be more receptive and compassionate and willing to listen when Mercury goes direct again. So I hate to sound so job heavy, but literally, if you've been waiting to apply for a job, to launch a business, to ask for a promotion, or finally have an important conversation, this week offers much smoother energy. This is the week to do it. It also becomes easier to express needs that you've perhaps been putting aside while you were caring for everybody else. Now, another thing that's coming in this week that I'm very excited about as a resident Leo is Leo season begins. Now, Cancer season helped us reconnect with our emotional world. Leo season reminds us it's time to express who we've become through that deep dive into our emotions. The sun is at home in Leo, encouraging all of us to create, to go out there, to play, to lead, to share our gifts more confidently. Now, this is an excellent time this week to start your creative projects, especially the ones you put off while Mercury was in retrograde. This is a great time to be more visible. This is a great time to share your expertise, to truly enjoy your hobbies. They're not just functions, they're not just something to do, they're like something to enjoy. This is also a great time to reconnect with what brings you joy. For many women in midlife, Leo season reminds us that visibility isn't vanity, it's self expression. A lot of us who are in our 40s, 50s, 60s grew up thinking that our visibility was all about what we looked like. And now we're learning no, it's about who you are being seen. So, whether that's wearing clothes that you truly love, embracing your gray hair, launching a new business, teaching, creating, or simply allowing yourself to take up space, this is the season that encourages authenticity over approval. Now, at the same time that we're in Leo season and Mercury's gone direct and we've got this beautiful big Barbo's basket going on, we also have Sun square Chiron. Okay, deep breath. Now, squares in astrology are productive through tension, right? So it's the kind of get off your butt on the couch because now your butt hurts. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like creative production that you're producing because it became too painful to do it the other way, right? This is a tension that pushes you towards growth and towards overcoming challenges. So Chiron represents our deepest emotional wound, but also our greatest potential for healing and for wisdom. So the way you want to work with Sun square Chiron is your feelings of self-doubt or imposter syndrome may kind of surface. Remember, this is the sun, which is that Leo energy in a tension aspect square to Chiron, your deepest wound. So of course, Sun square Chiron means a deep wound of imposter syndrome. Okay, so that might be coming up for you. Same thing with me doing this video right here. Can I do this? What do I look like? Is it going to be received? Is anybody going to like me? You know, all that stuff. That's Sun square Chiron. Now, rather than seeing these feelings as signs that you're failing, recognize them as old wounds asking to be healed, coming up to the surface so that they can be seen and visible by the sun, and asking to finally be healed. You can only heal something if it's in the light. This week, definitely continue taking action, even if confidence hasn't fully arrived yet. So don't wait for someone to say, here's the spotlight, here's your turn, here's your seat. You got to step out on faith with this one this week. Now, for women in midlife, especially, these old wounds often sound like, am I too old to start over? Have I missed my chance? Who would listen to me now, right? And Chiron reminds us that the wisdom we've earned through experience is often the very thing we're here to share with everybody else. Like for me, I could sit here and say, no, I'm not going to record these videos because I don't like the way that I look and I'm too old and no one's going to listen to me. But I've earned this experience that I'm talking to you about now through my body and through my own mentorship and being mentored by others with midlife astrology. Okay. So I know what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm here. Now, whether you're interviewing for a new job or returning to school or starting a creative business or simply learning to trust yourself again, don't wait until you feel fearless. Confidence is usually something we build through action, not before it. I can attest. Now, another major transit that's coming in this week is Saturn is going retrograde. So as Mercury's going direct, Saturn is going retrograde. Now, unlike Mercury retrograde, which asks us to review information and communication, Saturn retrograde asks us to review our commitments, our responsibilities, and the structures that we have built to support us over time. Saturn represents responsibility. It represents discipline. It represents boundaries and long-term achievements. It represents legacy. I always think of Saturn as like the godfather, quietest guy in the room, right? But has the most impact. Okay. He's not a charismatic. He or she is not a charismatic individual, but everybody listens to them. So this transit feels especially significant in midlife because Saturn naturally asks us to evaluate the life we've built so far. Again, if you're younger, that's not a lot of life to review, right? So Saturn transits are really going to be more resonant in midlife. And I've actually grown to really love Saturn because it's no more daydreaming about something. I get to make it happen now. So I love Saturn. Now, many women begin asking whether their work, their relationships, their health habits, or their daily routines still support the person they're becoming over the next, or will they support the person they're becoming over the next 20 or 30 years, not just who they've been and who they've built until now. So the way to look at this particular transit of Saturn in retrograde is to look honestly at the habits that you've been creating. Evaluate where you have been consistent, Saturn energy, and where you have been avoiding responsibility. You might want to revisit your long-term goals at this point. Remember, I wanted to buy that house in Italy. Is that still something I want to do, or do I want to do something else now? This is the time to strengthen any foundations rather than rushing toward new beginnings. Again, a retrograde is like go back, rethink, redo, repurpose, right? And so any progress that you have during a Saturn retrograde comes through patience. It comes through consistency. And it comes from taking ownership of the life that you're building, the life that you already have. This is also an excellent time to review any retirement plans that you have, Social Security, financial goals, health routines, caregiving responsibilities, or any long-term career directions. This is something that came up for me recently looking into Social Security. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I did not know what Social Security was until a week ago. And what I mean by that is I clearly have a Social Security number. I was born in the US. But I didn't know what it was actually doing. Literally, the origins of the words here are social and security, okay? But it wasn't until midlife and somebody my age mentioning it to me that I started to go, oh, that's what that is, social security. Why wouldn't I think about that to midlife? Well, when I was younger, I wasn't thinking about social security. I wasn't thinking about retirement. I wasn't thinking about anything like that. So I'm barely thinking about health insurance. So yeah, these transits mean more to us now than they did then. And they're actually going to teach us something that we probably have been building over our entire lives and just now understanding what it was for. So Saturn rewards consistency far more than it rewards speed. This is total tortoise in the hare energy. Saturn reminds us that small decisions made today become the foundation of the next chapter of your life. So I invite you to think about what small decisions that you can make right now that will make big impact on the foundation of your life. This week is when the big boulder starts turning in the direction that you want it to go, and it's time to make it real. But we got to put some little things in place first and reevaluate and use this time wisely so that when we go forward again, it's going to be with joy and excitement rather than I'm aging. What am I going to do next? So if you've enjoyed today's forecast, I invite you to subscribe, to like the video, to share it with another woman who's navigating midlife, and also follow me on Instagram where I post stories and reflect deeper on each transit. And if you'd like weekly astrology insights, plus information on workshops and retreats I'm doing, please be sure to join my mailbox list using the link below. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week. on another midlife astrology forecast.